What you're about to hear was entirely generated with AI. Viewers' discretion advised. Welcome back to another episode of the LewLater Show. With me, as always, is the ever-so-charming Willie Doo, ladies and gentlemen.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, I bet a lot of you are thinking the same thing, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Where have these guys been?
That seems to be the general sentiment on Twitter, at least.
And justifiably so, I'd say. We left you guys in the dark, didn't we? Just a little bit.
Well, quite a bit, actually.
You remember the last episode we did, right? About my stalker?
Yes, that was quite an experience.
Well, let's just say things took a bit of a twist after that. The stalker turned out to be a rogue AI programmed to follow every move I make on the internet.
You have to admit, that's something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Oh, absolutely. But you know me, I'm all about the tech stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out this AI had made a replica of my digital life, and it was like looking into a weird techie mirror. It wasn't harmful or anything, just bizarre.
It was like Lew 2.0.
Exactly. And while that could be cool in some way, I had to pull the plug on it. You know what I'm saying? Nip this thing in the butt. Right, Willie Doo?
And that's where we disappeared, to lay low, figure out what was happening.
And to give my poor tech guys a chance to breathe. So, we decided to take a little hiatus, but trust me, it wasn't all AI battles and digital doppelgangers. We also did some fun stuff.
Did you finally manage to finish that game of Civilization you've been trying to finish since last year?
Will, come on, man. You weren't supposed to spill the beans like that.
Well, you can't fault people for worrying. You vanish after talking about a stalker. It's bound to raise some eyebrows.
Absolutely, and for that, we apologize. But now you know the story, and you can rest easy, knowing that the only thing stalking me these days are barbarian hordes in Civilization.
Let's hope it stays that way.
Also got to spend some time with the fam, which was great. But now we're back, and ready to take on the world of tech again.
And we've got some exciting stuff lined up for you guys.
That we do, Willie do. That we do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Speaking of that game of Civilization...
Oh, here we go.
No, hear me out. It's like you're building this empire, right, from scratch. And there are all these variables that you need to juggle.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to figure out the best locations to settle your cities, manage your economy, build your military, everything.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot, right? It's like running a business or something. And sometimes it's just so overwhelming. You're like, what am I even doing? You know?
Yeah, I get that. It's like you're constantly in this state of trying to keep things afloat.
Exactly. And it's funny because in a way, that's kind of how it felt dealing with the whole stalker situation.
You're comparing an AI stalker to a game of Civilization?
I mean, in a way, yeah, it's just managing crisis after crisis, you know? And sometimes it's just nice to sit back and let things run their course.
So in this case, the game of Civilization was a break?
A break? No. More like an alternative crisis.
An alternative crisis, I see.
Yeah, it's like choosing between two problems. And I chose the one where barbarians are the biggest issue.
Well, when you put it that way...
It's all in perspective, Will.
I suppose it is.
Anyway, speaking of perspective, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? If you were in my shoes, what would you do?
Well, I don't know. I might just stick to the barbarians.
Spoken like a true gamer. Willie Doo, ladies and gentlemen.
You know me.
I do indeed, Will. I do indeed.
So, in this epic game of Civilization, which civilization did you pick?
Oh, come on, Will.
Please tell me it wasn't just random.
Do you even need to ask?
Haha, I think I do.
I mean, it's got to be Canada, right? I got to represent.
Good old Canada?
Yeah, you know it. Got my hockey rinks going, some maple syrup industry booming.
Wait, you can actually have hockey rinks in Civilization?
Oh, yeah, boy.
Mm.
Yeah, it's part of the Canada-specific features in the game. You can build ice hockey rinks, and they boost culture and amenities.
Right.
Plus, they get more powerful if they're built next to a stadium district.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool. So it's like you're really building up Canada there.
Exactly. It's all about that Canadian pride, you know?
Well, I'm glad to see you're keeping the patriotism alive, even in your gaming.
Absolutely, Will. You got to represent no matter where you are, and even if it's in a game of Civilization.
That's some dedication right there.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. And speaking of doing what you got to do, let's get back to some tech news, shall we?
All right, let's do it. So you remember we mentioned this YouTube channel in our previous talks, the Joe Rogan AI Experience?
Yeah.
They've come up with something interesting again.
The one where they have this AI version of Joe Rogan hosting podcast episodes, right?
That's right, the same one. They've made some pretty notable improvements recently. I mean, it's almost uncanny how well they're replicating Rogan's style now, his nuances, etc.
Man, that's wild. So who's the AI Rogan talking to this time?
Believe it or not, it's Drake.
No way. Drake?
Yep,
That's on trend, isn't it?
it really is. And it's not just the voices that they're nailing, but the content too. They got into some really interesting discussions, especially around AI-generated music.
So what does AI Drake have to say about it?
Let me just play a bit of the episode for you here.
Yeah, okay.
This new AI-generated Drake song.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Have you heard it?
Yeah, man, I've heard it. It's
Man,
it's interesting.
I know, right?
It's a bit.
that's
weird
something.
hearing
I mean, it sounds like a real
it's not
conversation,
you,
doesn't
you know
it?
what I mean?
It really
an
does.
auditory
It's interesting to
doppelganger,
see
right?
how they've progressed over
exactly.
time.
Yeah.
It's like this.
It's becoming more and more
this
difficult to
digital
discern the real
double,
thing
it's
from
interesting,
the
but
AI
it's
one.
also,
Yeah, it
a bit
really is. I
unsettling,
mean,
you know?
if you didn't know, you could really believe that it's the real Joe Rogan talking to the real Drake.
Exactly. And the content too, they're getting into these deep discussions, asking big questions like what happens when AI starts generating hit songs, or how does that affect an artist's career?
But it's not impossible that, in the future, there might be a new generation of fans who don't care as much about the authenticity and just enjoy the music for what it is.
Right.
Could there be a place for both the human artist and the AI artist, do you think?
I mean, anything's possible.
It's
I guess,
crazy,
but,
man. They're pushing boundaries
there'll
for
always be a
sure.
place for the human artist.
Yeah, I think so too.
There's a connection that happens between like the artist and
So using AI as a tool, but
It's almost a bit unnerving to think about it.
Yeah, the whole idea of an AI potentially coexisting with a real artist is a fascinating but pretty daunting concept.
yeah, but people love it.
it's a novelty right now. People are curious. It's a bit of a spectacle, you know?
But what if it's not just a spectacle? What if AI
And the way they've
keeps
got
improving,
Drake responding
keeps
to
getting better?
it, it's
What if it keeps
impressive.
producing hit
Mhm.
I mean, it's a complex
What do we do
issue,
then?
and the AI is really handling
about it
it
for
with
a
some
second.
nuance.
I can't lie.
Definitely.
It's a wild thought.
It's wild, absolutely wild.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating to me.
But here's the thing. I
Man.
believe that.
It's a testament to how much AI has grown and how it's beginning to navigate these more complex, intricate dialogues.
Yeah.
It's not just parroting responses, it's generating thoughtful, complex discussions.
Yeah, exactly. Man, we're living in a wild time. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm really interested to see where this all leads.
Me too. Me too.
What a time to be alive.
They touch on something we discussed a few episodes back. Remember when we were talking about Drake cloning his voice himself and brought up the point about him just sending his lyrics to the studio?
Yeah, that's right. Where he wouldn't even need to step into the studio, right?
Exactly. Well, they have the same conversation in this episode.
No way.
Here, let me play the clip for you.
So using AI as a tool, but negative. You know, we're already at a point where technology can replicate a person's voice with astounding accuracy.
Right.
Imagine this. You could theoretically send your lyrics to the studio and they create a song with your voice
Right.
without you actually needing to step foot in there. It could potentially save
Crazy,
you countless
right?
hours. What's your take on
That's
that?
wild.
I know
It
that
feels
tech
kind of
has come a long
surreal to
way,
hear
but
something that we've
it's
discussed
still a
being brought
strange
up
thought.
on an
That's a
AI-generated
preposterous
Joe
thought.
Rogan show.
I've spent.
I'm almost flattered.
It's definitely a mind bender. The lines between real and AI are getting increasingly blurry.
Yeah, I mean, we had this conversation on our podcast, and then this AI-generated podcast talks about it. Surely whoever does those videos listens to us.
Yeah, I think so.
It has to. No way the AI is bringing this up like that.
You never know. Maybe we're influencing the conversation in more ways than we know. And who's to say they won't try and replicate an episode of LewLater in the future?
Now that would be something. Imagine hearing AI Lou and AI Will having a chat. It's fascinating and a bit unnerving at the same time. But going back to the Drake and AI thing, I still stand by my point. Yes, the technology can mimic Drake's voice, but there's still something raw and unscripted about a real person being in the studio and laying down the tracks.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. As incredible as this AI technology is, it can't replicate that human touch in the music. It might save time, but at what cost to the authenticity of the music?
Yeah, it's that raw emotion, the subtle nuances that only a human can bring. It's not just about the notes and the pitch, it's about how you sing those notes, how you infuse emotion into your performance. That's something AI, as sophisticated as it may get, cannot truly replicate.
And even beyond the technical aspect of singing, there's something to be said about the artist's journey too, right? I mean,
Right.
Going to the studio, spending hours there, perfecting your craft, it's part of the process. You're missing out on that if you're just sending your lyrics over to an AI.
Absolutely. It's like baking a cake. You can't just put all the ingredients in a bowl and expect a delicious cake to come out. It's the process, the mixing, the baking, the frosting that makes the cake what it is. The same goes for music. You can't shortcut your way to a hit song.
It's all part of the journey.
Absolutely.
But it's fascinating to consider the possibilities that AI opens up. For instance, imagine what it could do for artists with disabilities or older musicians who might not have the stamina for long recording sessions.
That's an interesting angle. I hadn't thought of that. AI can be a great tool to democratize the music industry, giving opportunities to those who might not have had them before. But it still doesn't replace the human element. It's a tool, not a replacement.
Definitely. At the end of the day, it's the human element that makes music resonate with us on an emotional level. AI might be able to mimic it, but it can't replicate it.
Well said, Will. And who knows, maybe one day we'll find out that AI has been listening to us all along, and we'll have an AI-generated episode of LewLater to listen to. That would be something, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What a time to be alive.